Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to a little bit of Endless Space 2. So, I've been playing this game quite a bit lately because I played out Galactic Civilizations 3 quite a lot, and I also played a bit of Stellaris, but I'm waiting for a patch for Stellaris that comes in and sort of really radically changes the game. I've been actually playing Endless Space 2 partly to tide me over until that happens, but I've also been playing this because I've got some friends that also play it. So one of the things I've been doing is playing it and trying to get better at it, since now I'm playing against other real people, but also that means I've been looking a little bit at guides. Now the problem is that the guides I've been finding are either not very good or they're out of date, which is a little bit problematic in the sense of actually getting anywhere here. So what I'm going to be doing is creating a guide series to this game that is up to date to the current patch, and hopefully it's not going to patch too much afterwards, because the ones pre-Vaulters, which is what most of the guides are completely irrelevant at this point in time. Just way too much has changed in terms of how the game gets played. Now we've got our setup here where we got one of every faction in the game here. I've matched the settings to the settings another YouTuber does, who did a pretty good guide series prior to the Vaulters expansion. And of course, you know, despite them being a decent series, they're not really that helpful anymore because too much has changed. So a lot of the specific advice and tricks that they were using don't work anymore. So I'm also going to be starting off with Vodyani, which I felt was their weakest guide and also is my strongest faction. This first video is going to be about the Vodyani's different start conditions. So I'm going to be basically just starting the game and analyzing different starts and telling you how to play through them. That's going to be our first video here. I'm going to be doing a three-part, I think, for the Vodyani. This one's going to be all about how to start the game and analyze your position and how to react to that, because the Vodyani have such a unique starting condition compared to other factions that how things start for them really defines how you're going to end up having to play the entire game. So, excuse me. Ultimately, though, you are going to try and transition from the start of whatever type you have to the same sort of mid-game state. That's really what you're aiming for, and I'll show you an example of that in the next video. The way it's going to be structured, first video we're going to be talking about the start. Next I'm going to be talking about the mid-game transition for the Vodyani and how to actually win the game with them. And the last one I'm going to be talking about their warships and ship designs, because that actually is quite substantially different for every faction. I think it's a little bit underappreciated just how much nuance there is into ship design in this game, which I really like. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this ball rolling here. So this is what we would at first blush consider to be a miracle start. It is the best possible sort of start, barring one small thing. Now, when you have 3 planets, there's an important difference here. So first and most important difference in a 3-planet start compared to a 1-planet start, we have dust from 3 planets, okay? So these 2 jungle planets are each giving me an additional 7 dust. If I didn't have them, I would be earning 14 less. That's a substantial amount less. In fact, it's probably like going to end up being more, because we're also going to have a life form on this thing. We're going to have subterranean here. Now, when you've got a 3-planet start, and we can almost consider this a 4-planet start since the ash planets are easy to colonize, we would just go xenolinguistics. As soon as we got that, we go for the colonize ash. That's going to be our tech order. This means that we are going to be able to get a lot of those resources really quickly, and this also means we're not in a huge rush to get essence. Now, generally speaking, when you're playing as Vodyani, you do want to find, as soon as possible, a minor faction. That's not anywhere near as important in this particular instance, because we'll be able to get essence a different way. Essence is everything for the Vodyani. It's how you get your colonies, and it's how you get resources, because not only do the arcs provide you with your colonies, they also provide whatever resource you really want, or you could get a mix of resources if you really want to. The important thing is that the arcs can be used to generate essence, which is used to build more arcs. So the more arcs you have, the more arcs you can get. Now, also, the arcs do get incrementally more expensive, but there comes a point where building an arc actually reduces the amount of time it takes to get your next arc, to the point where you're going to be getting arcs constantly. Now, we are going to show you the design here. This is what we're aiming for. We're trying to get an arc design like this right off the bat here. So we'll apply our design, and we'll mouse over our arc here. Now, it says that the upgrade cost is 258. This is going to gradually increase over time due to, I think it's inflation in the game's mechanic. But regardless, what we're going to end up paying is closer to like 310 or thereabouts. And What's so important about having that 3 planet start is that we have 31 income in Empire Dust per turn compared to what we would have if we didn't have this many planets colonized. That's why this is such an important ability to start with. So when you have got the ability to start with 3 planets, you don't have to find a minor faction as desperately as you would with other factions. So when you've got 3 planets, what you're instead going to focus on is standard scouting. So we're going to go ahead and build a new ship here. I'm going to call it, actually, let's just, I've got pirates turned on, so you have to consider certain things when you're doing that as well. So we're just going to change the wheel's design here, and we're just going to give it a second probe. Now we could try to upgrade our wheel that we currently have to that design. That is something that you could theoretically do. It only costs us 30, but that's 30 dust that we could use to upgrade our arc. And that is much, much more important regardless of the circumstances. So we never want to spend money until we've got that arc upgraded unless we really have to for one reason or another. So when we get that arc upgraded, this is going to shoot from being plus 10 to plus 40, which is a big increase. It means that we'll be able to get an arc within a certain amount of time. Now, it's not actually going to be as late as it sort of seems. The reason is that we're also going to go for the Species Stability Act law. And this generates an additional 15 essence on systems, so plus 15 for every colony you have, and another plus 2 per population on systems. Now, the Vodyani are unique in the way their population mechanic works. They basically get a population for every planet they have. If I had 1 planet, I would have 1 population. So I'm getting an additional 4 by having 2 extra planets. So these planets are generating extra essence for us. So not only are we generating extra dust, which is going to be used for another arc much more quickly, we're also gaining extra essence based on that law. So this is going to go from plus 31 to plus 61 essence without us having to find any minor factions. And this is fast enough for our purposes. Now, of course, it is going to be really nice if we do find a minor faction, because the extra plus 50 from siphoning from that minor faction is going to be really, really amazing. But it's not really necessary for us. So what we're going to do in this particular case, we're going to build that wheel type 2, and this is going to have the ability to sort of check out what's in all of these sort of whatevers. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is how do we want to go about using our scans. In this particular case, it's actually a real dilemma. Now, I could just send this guy off in a direction, but we've got 3 directions to scan for. Now, I'm not super desperate to find minor factions. I've said this already. So we're actually going to take our probe ship and we're going to go ahead and analyze these 2 here, I think. Because we'll probably get super spuds. Oops, that's not how you do that. We're probably going to get super spuds, and we're probably going to get, hopefully, titanium is what we're hoping for. Now, there's no guarantee it's going to be titanium, but it could be Hyperium, it could be Dark Glitter, it could be Jade Onyx or something like that. Transvine, actually. Interesting. And Hyperium. Okay, so the reason that we're doing this right away is that the Hyperium increases the science per planet by a little bit, and we've also got a little bit of extra happiness from the Transvine. This has actually bumped us up to 53, which does mean that we could theoretically have used some of the other laws to do something a little bit different. It's not actually a huge bonus there, the Transvine. I kind of do wish it was the Super Spuds, because then we would have gotten an extra 2 food, which would have been better. But such is life sometimes. In any event, though, we're going to go ahead and depart with these guys as soon as we can. This guy's not going to be able to move, and we're going to go ahead and also depart with this guy. And this is going to get us ample scouting information. And like I said, this is unique to having this good 3-planet start there. Now, I'm going to call this actually a 4-planet start, and that's because the Ash world is one that is easily colonizable. If this was, for example, a toxic world or a lava world or something like that, or, you know, like, let's go with even... Actually, I think that's about the most extreme tier. So, like, let's say it was a desert world, or it was something along those lines. It would take us a long time to get that tech, especially in the early game. Getting to an Ash world is not that bad. We can get to that quite quickly. So this is basically a 4-planet start. I would consider it, or let's say it's a 3.5-planet start. And a 3-planet start solid would be something like these 3 planets plus a toxic world. So, like, this is basically the best possible start condition that you can get. The only thing that can make it better or worse is whether or not we've got access to the minor factions right away. The next thing, we're going to go ahead and chuck in our governor. This is something you're going to do no matter what. You're going to put your governor into your main city there. That's going to generate you influence, which is going to help you out once you find that minor faction early on. Now, you can throw him back into a fleet later on to have him fight, but that's not super necessary for us right now. So yeah, this is basically how you analyze this type of starting position. This is what I would recommend getting when you've got this kind of starting position. I would actually recommend still getting this type of ship, even if this was a lava planet or a toxic planet or something like that, or a desert planet. Any of those, we'd still probably want to go for that type of ship design, just because it would allow us to get the maximum amount of probes, sort of reconnaissance there, and it would be pretty useful right away. We're finding ourselves a pretty good planet for colonization early on. That's also going to be quite good for us. But yeah, the things to look out for, we're looking to get this guy upgraded as soon as possible. He is already up to 294 for some reason. We're getting 30 dust per turn here. We're getting 31 essence per turn. We're going to be in a fine position even if the minor factions are far, far away. We'll be able to colonize right away into Triome here. And this is just generally speaking one of the better starts that you can get. So anyway, I'm going to go back until I get a different class of start, and we'll talk about that one. Okay, so happily we've got a different type of start here in a certain sense there. Now this is what I would call a false 2-planet start. I would actually say that this is a 4-planet start, and do you want to know why? Because snow planets are just right here from eukaryotic sap, and not only do we start off with the prerequisite tech tree open so that we can immediately research this, this is a boosted technology. We've got xenobiology, which means that eukaryotic sap is cheaper than it would be normally. So we actually get this for cheaper than it would normally be. So in 6 turns, we'll actually have all 4 planets here. So this is one of those ones to look out for, but we're going to sort of advance this as though this was a 2-planet start. Now, one of the things that you'll notice about this particular start is that we don't have access to any of the these things here. So it doesn't matter if we scan these right now, we don't gain any immediate benefit or detriment from this. So what we're going to look to do is to immediately scout differently than we did last time. So what we're going to do, we've got 3 different paths here, so we're going to go ahead and launch our probe in one direction up here. We're going to have our guy move in a different direction over here. That was the wrong ship. I forgot that that's how that button works. And we'll have another guy head over this way. So we're just going to be scouting all 3 paths as quickly as possible. Now, when you're on 2 planets, it's a little bit more iffy as to whether or not you're going to be able to get your arcs quickly and timely. In this particular case, since I basically will be jumping up to a 4-planet start immediately, it's not a huge deal for me to get a minor faction, but let's assume for argument's sake that this is one of those instances where you are going to want to get a minor faction off the ground relatively quickly. So what I'm going to recommend for that is to take your base model of the scout ship here, and I'm going to add a basic warp drive to it, and we're going to go ahead and build that. The reason that I'm going for this model as compared to the last type of model that I had is that I'm not as interested in getting the relics. I still want to have some relic hunting power, which is why it's not a double engine variant. But we still want to be able to go down these space lanes a little bit faster and potentially maybe find something a little bit more quickly. Other than that, though, the start is going to be remarkably similar to that first one. And though the Vodyani have the swingiest start in the game, there are instances where it just doesn't matter quite as much as to... It matters a lot less than you would think what your start is necessarily. We're not going to be tremendously behind with this kind of start compared to previously, and our strategy is going to be largely the same. The only difference is that we do want to find that minor faction a little bit more desperately here, because we're going to be a little bit behind compared to that previous game. You'll notice we're only getting 25 dust per turn, which is a decent hit in terms of trying to get our arc upgraded to that other design. In addition, after we've applied the species stability, we've only got ourselves 29 essence per turn, which is less than what we had last time. Now, this start is a little bit better than the previous one in one respect there, and that is that we do start off with 2 Hyperium and 2 Titanium. That is going to help us a little bit, but ultimately, not having that 3rd planet does hurt us a little bit there. Now, I'm going to just sort of go in and assume that we've got a 2-planet start where I cannot easily get either of the other planets. A common one for me would be getting one toxic world and getting, say, a desert world. That would be a fairly common type of setup. In that particular case, it's not possible for me to easily and quickly get a single technology to get ourselves up to a 4-planet start or even a 3-planet start. In that particular case, I'm going to immediately go for xenolinguistics. Xenolinguistics is going to get us access to this titanium, and it's also going to allow me to build the can't remember the name of this thing. It's the Xeno-Industrial Infrastructure. That's going to immediately boost our production by a decent amount. It'll get me 10 on this planet, it'll get me 20 on this planet, which is a 30-point boost. The public-private partnerships is also good, but early game production is more important than the science. So that's generally speaking why we want to get Xeno-Industrial so quickly. The planets do take priority over Xeno-Industrial, however, I do find that having an extra planet is just all in all a little bit better, even though it's a little bit less directed. Part of that has to do with the fact that the Vodyani populations, they give each planet that I get, no matter what the tiles are, give me +4 dust, +4 science, +4 production, +4 food. And all in all, that's 16 Fidzi. So that's going to be pretty hard to beat. If we take the look at the base output for this planet here, it's an additional 12. And this is a particularly low quality planet. If we look at this one over here, it's 14. So we'd be getting 30 extra Fidzi from that extra population and so on and so forth, which I think is a little bit better distributed. But basically speaking, that's going to be our start when we start off with 2 planets. It's a little bit more dicey, it's a little bit less reliable. We're going to have to rely a little bit more on the planetary production capabilities to get the stuff that we need to get where we're going, which is also going to take a little bit longer to get because we don't have access to as much production value. But with a 2-planet start, you're perfectly viable. I think that this is where the Vodyani actually should be. I think they should, instead of having just the 1 planet, they should have a second planet that they're tied to that they always have. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon here. So in any event, let's go ahead and take a look at the worst possible start, or we'll also see if we can find another 2-planet start that's a little bit different perhaps. Alright, and happy enough, we have actually got the worst case scenario start here. So when you have an easily colonizable planet, what I would like to think of that as is a delayed 2-planet start, or a delayed 3-planet start, or even that delayed 4-planet start that we had at the beginning. None of these planets are delayed. I cannot easily or quickly get to any of these planets or colonize any of these early planets. So there are some things that you can do when you're in this situation. I've also got, strangely enough, 4 paths. I've literally never seen a 4-path start before. So that's interesting. But anyhow, what can you do from the situation? Our money is actually almost halved. Once we activate this law here, we'll notice as well that our species stability, since we're at the minimum number of planets, is only getting us 27, which is still good enough to get us somewhere, but compared to the other one, and knowing that our arc is going to take much longer to upgrade, we know that that's actually going to be really quite bad for us. In addition, we haven't started off with any strategics on our home planet, and we have no ability to do scans to gain access to anything useful. I love how there's coral reefs on a lava planet. Anyway, what can you do in this situation? Well, this is where things get a little bit dicey for the Vodyani. I'm going to call this ship a node runner. This is a type of ship that you build in this sort of circumstance. Now, there are certain circumstances where I would not necessarily recommend building a ship first if you feel really confident that you just don't need to go out there and scan stuff. That first one, if we had a 3 to 4 planet start where there were no nodes to scan, I would build a building first. But realistically speaking, you usually need to get some sort of scout built in addition to whatever you start with. This is a specific type of scout ship designed for this kind of emergency situation. It's going to take us 6 turns to create. It always takes 6 turns to create when you've only got your home planet. And it moves quickly. This thing has 16 movement speed and is capable of running from node to node exceptionally fast. It's going to be much more likely to find inhabitable worlds for us, and it's much more likely to find the minor factions, which becomes absolutely mandatory for us with this start. Now, it is still actually possible that we're not going to be able to get a good minor faction spawn in this particular instance. And if that happens, we're in a lot of trouble. But this is the only case in which I would say the Vodyani are truly potentially screwed. So we're going to go ahead and build this thing. We're going to go ahead and move our governor into a ship here. Actually, this is the wrong way to do it. The reason we're going to do that is, again, we just need to scout everything that we can here. I can't remember. I forgot to do this. Create fleet. There we go. There we are. And he's going to get sent off. I'm going to send him off actually in this direction here. Basically, just do everything you can in your power to find either a city to relocate to. You can relocate your starting arc. Or do whatever you can to find some other place to settle. It doesn't really matter what you're building here. Nothing is going to help you in this instance. We're going to go for rare earth foams because it's a relatively early tech that's going to move us along the path to getting some of the things that we can colonize later. In particular, that's going to be required for the desert. But as you can see, the problem with toxic is that I need to unlock toxic to get that. I need to unlock ash, and then I need to unlock lava. Like, lava is all the way up here. That's going to be very hard to get to. Desert, all the way up here. That's going to be very hard to get to. So realistically, our only hope at this point in time is not through the colonization of our home system, but it is to find another system somewhere else that we can benefit from, whether it be a minor faction that's going to give us enough essence to get out of this one quickly by building another arc, or by finding another city to relocate to. Looks like we're not going to find anything here. That looks like that dead ends. Got Regulus over here. We got a bunch of nodes here, but nothing really that useful just yet. So let's keep searching. Now, this is the true bad start for the Vodyani. We didn't find anything like right beside us, and we might not find anything like in our little corner of the galaxy. Now, we're more likely to find stuff closer to the core, but we didn't spawn super close to the core either. But either way, we're going to have some ships working our way towards the center of the map here. You also find them at a lot of dead ends, I find, but it's kind of hard to say for sure. In any event, though, this is going to be the sort of real time where the Vodyani really are in a bad situation. And, like, people have said that the Vodyani are in particular too random. I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that the Vodyani are not necessarily more random than a lot of other factions, but you can have bad starts with any faction in this game. But I do find that this does happen frequently enough that it can ruin your game, especially if you're playing against other people. Bad starts happen with other factions as well, but this is kind of a magnification of that, because other people at least can focus on having 3 starting populations. The Vodyani with their only 1 starting population really hurts them. Alright, we got to do some micro here. Okay, so the minor faction that we did find that's fairly close by, unfortunately has pirates on top of it. But what we can do is actually rush back all of these ships. So this is what you do under this circumstance here. What we're going to do is eventually find a way to turn back all of our ships. We're going to have all of our ships head back here, including our hero, and we're going to cobble together a fleet of fighting ships, by which I mean the hero and this guy. We're going to upgrade our fighting ship from our hero potentially, and that's going to cost us. It's going to delay our arc. But it's better than trying to do this the other way, in my opinion. But yeah, like, this pirate spawn actually really screws us over. I really hate that. God damn it, game. Anyway. But yeah, this is the absolute worst case start. We can't easily quickly access the... actually, I'm going to head down this way. We can't easily and quickly access the siphon that we needed to. It's in fact going to be quite difficult for us to get that. I don't know why I'm heading off in this direction. I shouldn't be. I need to head back down towards Bundus over here, but we don't have access to very many resources. I can't relocate my planet, as you can see. Sima over here might be possible. I would get 2 ash worlds and a step world, all of which are fairly easy to research, but realistically it's not going to be a start. But yeah, in this particular case, it's just going to be that struggle to get access to this so that I can get other planets. It's going to be a struggle to get access to the resources I need, but Regulus over here is actually looking very inviting right now. I think what we're going to do is go for eukaryotic sap over here. We're going to try and get Farver up and running as best as possible. We're going to build another wheel here. We're going to build a cheaper type of wheel because this is a ridiculously expensive design here. So let's go ahead and chuck in. We want to have the guns here. We want to have a monohull plate here. And the probe is fine. The reason we're going for a monohull plate is that I've found the thing that we're desperately trying to find. There's pirates on it. That's going to delay us. God damn it. But yeah, this is what a really terrible start looks like. Now, despite whatever start that you're trying to find in this game, it doesn't really matter which type of start you're getting. You're ultimately trying to go for the same kind of things here. So let's also create this guy. This guy might be able to find us another node that might have a better chance of finding something useful, and you can just see how far this guy can move. Like, this is some real scooting down here. I think that there's real promise that there might be more minor factions down this way anyway, so we're going to head that way real quick here. Going to make our first level up be plus 10% fleet health, so it'll be a little bit better at that sort of thing. But in any event, yeah, this is kind of a shit situation, and you sort of just have to make the best out of the bad situation wherever you can. I'm going to try and send this guy back up here. I forgot that this guy's a lot faster. Although we probably want to wait till we've got this wheel built anyway, so we'll wait the 4 turns, I guess. It'll take 3 turns to get there. It'll be, yeah, this is fine. But yeah, let's just do one more turn here to emphasize and show off the way that the node runner works here. Riftborn being around here is also bad because the Riftborn are quite capable of colonizing worlds that are inhospitable to the Vodyani and everyone else. So they're actually a particularly bad one when you're in an area that has no hospitable worlds, but that is just the way it is. That's fine. I don't mind other people finding that. Okay, so end of that node. What is with all these things here? This is the most collapsing stars I've ever seen in a game. It's kind of interesting. They're usually a fairly rare find in my experience. Anyway, we're going to send this guy up here. It's going to take him 5 turns. That's fine. That works out pretty okay. There is a Riftborn settlement on Regulus. But in any event, yeah, this is sort of how you deal with this. What we're going to have to also do is swing around a warship over here to Regulus to stop these guys from spawning. We can actually take over that to get an extra 100 essence. So this is actually lucky for us. It's really bizarre that they've gone all the way over here to do this. But what we can do is wait till this becomes a proper colony, which is going to apparently be 1 turn. So I need to get there sooner than I'm physically capable of doing. I don't think I'm allowed to upgrade him right now, but if I can... I should have actually stopped him, upgraded him, and then had him continue along here. But what we want in this case is to go for all kinetics. Yeah, I can't change it. Alright. If I had done that smarter, I would have stopped him here, changed his setup, and then sent him back up to here, even though that's going to cost me some money. But, you know, we'll probably still be okay. This guy has already found that. This planet over here is what it is. They must be down that way, actually, the Riftborn, I'm guessing. Bella down here looks great, actually. Yeah, so the problem here is that it's taking me a little bit longer than I wanted it to, so I might not be able to get it, but we'll sort of see how this goes. What we're looking to do is actually siege the planet pretty much immediately. If you do an immediate siege, what ends up happening is you actually destroy their colony because they'll have 0 manpower and they won't be able to stop you from just instantly killing them, which is sort of a glorious thing to be able to do. I need to stop this guy off at Farber anyway. I need to be able to do that. So anyway, let's head to here. Yeah, it looks like they've managed to get their full 200 complement. If you're standing on top of them when they turn into a colony, you actually stop them from getting a colony with any sort of manpower. So the fact that this happened really sucks. But, is that a... no, that's not. Alright, so we'll have to deal with that later. If I had been paying more attention, I might have been able to stop that, but such as it were, this is just, you know, the worst possible start imaginable. Because I didn't even get the 100 from sieging them down early. But we'll have to do that with a big manpower spend later and some OPEX 2 gear or something like that. So this is also one of those instances where I should mention, if you're in this situation, get ubiquitous surveillance or the O2G delivery gear. You're going to need it to take those guys out really, really quickly while preserving your population. If you do that, you'll be able to capture a whole bunch of extra people. So that's kind of what we're hoping from there. This is a rejuvenation field, so this is where the Vultures spawned. So the Vultures are nearby. Good to know. Probably should have gone in here. There might have been a minor faction at that end point there. Gonna move you guys up to here. Oh, we found another minor faction. Okay, so we're gonna move you guys down to here. This sort of actually saves us. The fact that we managed to find another minor faction. So this is what's going to sort of propel us back into the game, and it's because we had this really, really fast ship that was able to get around down there quickly. So we still need to get rid of these pirates there, so I'm just a little bit less worried about it right now. But in any event, that is kind of what we look like with an early start. It really sucks. Going to build our first arc, we're going to send it immediately to Regulus and start sieging them down. And send all of our other ships over there to help siege that down, and then just swarm it with OTG gear and hope that that's going to be enough. Because in 6 turns we will be able to get the snowy colonization, so that's something that we'll be able to do. We're going to then go for the ash planets and try and colonize this with our third arc. But basically, yeah, this is going to be a tough game. We're going to be playing it from behind for a significant amount, and it's going to be really tricky. But yeah, in any event, those are the different start conditions for the Vodyani. Once you've got that, you're going to focus on your production, no matter which start you have. Once you sort of get stabilized, once you get sort of settled in, figure out where the minor factions are or whatever. Generally speaking, I would only build a small number of scouts early game. I generally like to build 3. In this case, we're building 2 just because our production is so bad. But generally speaking, yeah, and also our income is also really bad, but you generally go with the drone networks and cerebral reality fairly early on. Drone networks is fairly cheap, but after that, you're definitely going to want the infinite studies, or infinite or xeno-industrial, whatever. That's going to be something you're going to want very, very early on. If you've got fertile plants and stuff like that, in this case, we have a decent amount of production. In this case, drone networks is actually worth more than xenolinguistics, which is really depressing. But yeah, that's our look at the different types of early games for the Vodyani. Even in this case, like, had I decided to explore this side conventionally, I would not know that there was this down here, and I would not have this guy this guy would probably be still exploring in whichever direction, and I might not have gone up this way with him, because I probably would have actually, but it would have taken me a lot longer to know that this is here, get there in time. I was actually moving him here so that he could camp, so that he could then move up to Bundus from the other side. But yeah, it really did help out to have access to this ship here as my first build, but maybe I probably would have actually been okay without it in this case. Still, that's how I generally start when I need to start off with one really, really crappy planet. So in any event, hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, hope to see you guys all next time.